In that valley, there was one rule everyone understood. If a man with power asked you to sign something, you signed it. You didn't read it. You didn't ask questions. And you didn't say no. Because men who said no didn't get second chances. Jacob Rowe knew that rule. He had lived by it for 12 quiet years, keeping his head down, working land nobody else wanted, pretending that silence was the same thing as safety. That illusion ended the moment 3 riders stopped at his gate, just before sundown. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They didn't threaten. They didn't need to. Jacob was fixing a broken fence post when he heard the horses. He straightened slowly, already knowing who they belonged to. Horses like that didn't wander. They were trained, fed well, and ridden by men who expected doors to open when they knocked. The lead rider tipped his hat. "Evening, Jacob." Jacob wiped his hands on his trousers. "Evening." The man dismounted. Tall, dirty, clean coat, calm eyes. His name was Wallace Trent. Everyone in the valley knew it. Trent didn't own land. He didn't need to. He owned debt, contracts, judges, and men willing to enforce agreements that were never meant to be fair. Trent smiled like they were old friends. "Mind if we talk?" Jacob didn't answer. Trent took that as permission. They sat at Jacob's table while the sun slid down behind the hills. Trent laid a single folded document between them. "Routine transfer," he said. "You won't feel a thing." Jacob didn't touch it. "What am I transferring?" he asked. Trent leaned back. "Water access, mineral rights, easements." Jacob felt something tighten in his chest. "That creek feeds 3 farms," he said. "Including mine." Trent nodded. "For now." Jacob stared at him. "You'll want the land," Jacob said. Trent smiled wider. "We want what's under it." Jacob shook his head. "No." The word landed heavy in the room. The 2 men standing behind Trent shifted. Trent's smile didn't fade. "Think carefully," he said. "Men who refuse tend to regret it." Jacob met his eyes. "Still no." For the first time, Trent's expression hardened. "That's unfortunate." He stood. "You'll reconsider." Trent folded the paper neatly and placed it back in his coat. "Someone will come by tomorrow," he said. "You'll feel different then." The riders left without another word. Jacob stood alone in his kitchen, listening to the silence settle. He had just said no to the wrong man. The knock came after midnight. "Hard," he repeated. "Urgent." Jacob reached for his rifle and moved toward the door. "Jacob," a voice called. "Open up." "Please." He recognized the voice. It was Samuel Price. Samuel owned the farm downstream. Jacob opened the door. Samuel stumbled inside, pale, shaking, blood darkening his sleeve. "They came," Samuel gasped. "Trent's men." Jacob dragged him to a chair. "What did they do?" Samuel swallowed. "They burned my barn, shot my horses, told me I had until morning to sign." Jacob's jaw tightened. "You didn't." Samuel shook his head. "I told them I needed time." Jacob exhaled slowly. "That was a mistake." Samuel grabbed his arm. "They said you refused too." Jacob didn't answer. "They said if one of us breaks, the rest will follow," Samuel whispered. Jacob felt the weight of it settle in. Trent wasn't negotiating. He was isolating. Samuel stayed until dawn. By morning, the valley knew. The second visit came before noon. Not riders. Neighbors Stush. First one. Then another. Then 5 more. They didn't accuse Jacob. They didn't threaten him. They looked at him the way people look at a man standing too close to the edge of something dangerous. "You should sign," one of them said quietly. "Before it gets worse." Jacob stared at the dirt. "Worse than what?" A woman spoke up. "They took my brother last night." Jacob looked up sharply. "Where?" She shook her head. "They didn't say. The message was clear. This wasn't about land anymore. It was about pressure." Jacob stood on his porch as they left, one by one. By afternoon, the creek ran low. By evening, someone had diverted part of it upstream. Jacob watched the water thin and understood the next move. They were already taking what he refused to give. The third knock came after dark. Not on the door. On the walls. Rocks. Then louder impacts. Jacob stepped outside. Men stood in the shadows beyond the fence. Not masked. Not hiding. They wanted to be seen. "Last chance," one of them called. "Sign tomorrow, or the valley handles you." Jacob felt his hands shake. "You don't own this place," he said. The man laughed. "Not yet." They left. Jacob stood alone under the stars, realizing something important. Trent didn't need to kill him. He just needed everyone else to decide Jacob wasn't worth protecting. Samuel came back the next morning. Worse this time. "They took my daughter," he said. Jacob froze. "Where?" "They didn't say." Samuel's voice broke. "They said she'd come back when I signed." Jacob felt sick. "This isn't right," Samuel said. "This isn't law," Jacob nodded. "It's leverage." Samuel grabbed his coat. "Please," he said. "If you sign, they'll stop." Jacob looked at him. "If I sign," Jacob said slowly, "they'll know this works." Samuel stared at him. "What choice do we have?" Jacob didn't answer. That night, Jacob couldn't sleep. By morning, he made his decision. Jacob rode into town alone. Not to sign. To speak. He went to the sheriff first. The man wouldn't meet his eyes. "I don't get involved," the sheriff said. Jacob went to the courthouse. The clerk locked the door. Jacob went to the bank. The manager told him to leave. By noon, Jacob understood the truth. The valley wasn't under threat. It was already owned. That evening, Trent came back. This time with more men. And no smiles. They met at Jacob's fence. Trent dismounted. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," Trent said. Jacob folded his arms. "You took a child." Trent tilted his head. "I applied pressure." Jacob's hands clenched. "Where is she?" Trent shrugged. "Safe." For now. Jacob felt rage rise and forced it down. "If I sign," Jacob said, "you'll let her go." Trent smiled. Immediately, Jacob looked around. At the land. The creek. The sky darkening above it all. He saw the future clearly now. If he signed, the valley would belong to men like Trent forever. If he didn't, people would suffer because of him. Trent extended the paper. Jacob reached for it. Then stopped. "No," he said. The word echoed. Trent's face hardened. "So be it." He turned to his men. "Burn the house." The first torch hit the roof. Jacob fired. Chaos erupted. Gunshots shattered the night. Trent's men weren't expecting resistance. 2 fell before they could react. Others scattered. The fire spread fast. Jacob retreated inside, coughing, eyes burning. Samuel appeared beside him, rifle in hand. "I couldn't live with myself," Samuel said. Then another man joined them. Then another. Neighbors. Farmers. Kite. People who had already lost too much. They fought hard. Not bravely. Desperately. By the time the fire died, 3 men lay dead. Trent was gone. So was the girl. The valley stood in ruins. Dawn broke over smoke and silence. Samuel sat on the ground, head in his hands. "They'll kill her," he said. Jacob shook his head. "No," he said. "They won't." Samuel looked up. "They don't need her anymore." Samuel understood. Jacob mounted his horse. "Where are you going?" Samuel asked. "To finish it," Jacob said. Trent didn't expect Jacob to come alone. That was his mistake. Jacob rode straight into Trent's camp. Men raised weapons. Jacob dismounted. "I'm here to trade," he said. Trent stepped forward, surprised. "For what?" "For me," Jacob said. "You let the girl go," Trent laughed. "You don't have that kind of value." Jacob pulled folded papers from his coat. Trent's smile vanished. "You forged contracts," Jacob said. "Bribed officials. Threatened families." Trent stiffened. "You have no proof." Jacob nodded toward the ridge. Riders appeared. Not farmers. Not neighbors. Men from the county seat. "You just took." Investigators. Men Trent thought he owned. Samuel's daughter was released before sunset. Trent was taken in chains. The valley didn't celebrate. It rebuilt. Slowly. Painfully. Jacob lost his house. Lost years of work. Lost the quiet life he'd protected. But the creek ran free again. And for the first time men read what they signed. Jacob rebuilt on higher ground. Alone again. But no longer silent. Because he had learned something the valley would never forget. Sometimes the most dangerous word a man can say is no. Don't.